Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the 75 TR6 that we're working on in the Rusty Goatie's garage. I know it's been a while since the last video about this engine, but I hope you remember that we started preparing all the parts for the engine to start assembling it. So without further ado, let's start doing that. And now, before we start throwing parts inside, a very important step. Let's blow everything, make sure that there's no debris, there's no metal shavings anywhere, especially inside the oil passages, because this is how oil gets delivered to the main bearings. And from here through the crank, actually, it gets delivered even to the connecting rods. So we have to make sure that there's nothing blocking them. So we're gonna start building it from the bottom up. Well, the engine is upside down now, but you know what I mean. We're gonna put the camshaft first because now is the best moment. We can reach all the way down there, guide it, lubricate everything. If we have the crank inside, we can't reach. That's the tricky part now. We have to put assembly lube in all the bearings. So these surfaces serve as bearings because TR6 engines don't have cam bearings. And we have to make sure that we have assembly loop there before we put the camshaft. We're gonna put assembly lube also on the camshaft, so okay. So we can put it in now. Carefully, not to scratch anything. There you go. So next we're gonna put the crankshaft, but before that, again, we have to make sure that it is clean and all the oil passages are free of any debris, they're not clogged with anything. And this is how we do that. So there's an oil passage that goes from here to here. So this is where I showed you on the block where the oil gets delivered to the main bearing cup. It lubricates the main bearings, but also it goes through this hole and comes out of this hole and lubricates the connecting rod as well. This connecting rod gets lubricated by this journal. This here hole. So this journal has two holes, and this other hole leads to this pin. This pin gets lubricated by this journal, and again this journal has another hole too that leads to this pin, and the last pin gets lubricated by this journal. Sometimes, especially in this case now, the crank sat for a long time and it's possible that something went inside, even a bug can go inside, and we need to make sure that these are clean. So now we can install it on the block. So we determined that the main bearings are 020, which means 20 over. We need 4 of them for here. So all the bearings have a tab here that needs to match this tab. And of course this hole needs to match this hole again for our oil passages. You can't install it reverse. Well, I guess you can if you push it this way. I don't know. It's possible, but I guess nobody is that stupid. We're not lubricating them on the back side. We're gonna lubricate them on the inside though. Okay, we'll make sure that it is the bearing is flush here. So now I'm going to lubricate the journals as well, and I'm going to bring the crank over. And there you go. I'll put it in reverse. There you go. Nice. And the reason why we are using assembly lube instead of oil is because the oil tends to leak and goes down to the oil pan, and the assembly lube is more sticky. It's designed to stay where it is. So even if you don't start the engine right away after it's rebuilt, it's gonna stay there for months, I guess, if not years, I don't know. Not that we're not gonna start this engine soon. I mean, as soon as we rebuild it and put it in the car, we're gonna try to start it. But still, assembly lube is assembly lube, so that's fine. Next, I don't know if you see these numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are the numbers of the cups, main bearing cups. And our cups are also marked somewhere. So this is 4, if you see here 4. And also the orientation of the number is important. We can't put it this way, we need to put it this way. So not only the number matches, but also the orientation of the number matches. So that's our number 4. I'm gonna make sure it's clean too. No debris here, especially between the bearing and the cup. Like, this is a key. Everything needs to be clean. I match the tab here. This hole doesn't lead anywhere, but they just make all the 8 bearings the same. So if they give you 4 with hose and 4 without hose, there's always going to be somebody who installs the ones without the hose down there. So they just made them all the same. I guess it's easier for production as well. And again, the number is in orientation, so you can read it, same as that one. Double checking everything. I'm just gonna drive them carefully down there. We're gonna torque them after, of course. That's number 3. Okay, once the bolts are in, they are like guide, and they direct it down there. Okay, number 2, and last but not least, number 1. Perfect. Now we're gonna have a lot of Endplay, right? Yep, because yes, you're right. I forgot the Trustwashers. Good thinking, guys. I was just testing your thinking. Okay, so for Trustwashers, I bought standard size, and we're gonna try with them. And if we need oversized ones, I have also the other ones hanging around. This is where the Trustwashers live. One goes on this side, one goes on that side, and they prevent the crankshaft from going back and forth. There's only 2, only in the upper half of the block, not in the cap. So as you can see here, in the cap we don't have bearing, and that is a stupid design because TR6s have a serious problem with these Trustwashers. They get worn really fast. Anyways, we're gonna lubricate them, and the side with the 2 channels is the bearing side. This is what rides on the surface of the crankshaft. So the crankshaft has a machine surface here and a machine surface here, and that's where the bearings ride. So for this side, we're gonna put again the channels towards the crankshaft. So we put it like this, upside down, and then we just turn it around. I'm trying to do it without blocking your view. So oops, like this. Now we can push the crank backwards like this. Make sure that it doesn't fall through. And this one, this time it's gonna be this way because the machine surface on the crank is here. It goes like this, and then we turn. Okay, I'm gonna go this way this time. Okay. Now we're gonna put our cap back, number 4, in that orientation. And now we're gonna torque the crank, and after that we're gonna measure the end play to make sure that it is within the limits, and if it is not, we're gonna have to undo it and install bigger bearings, but I hope that's not needed. So the torque spec here is 65 foot-pounds. Now let's measure the end play. So that looks like 8 thou. 0, 8, 0, 8. So that's good. The end play needs to be between 6 and 8, I believe, so we are within the limits. So next we need to install the connecting rods with the pistons. However, we machined this block to 20 over, but we have standard size pistons. So that's why we bought a new set of pistons. And let's see what else is in the kit. I hope it has everything, like wrist pins and rings and everything that we need. That reminds me of a game that I used to have as a kid. I love it. Okay guys, I'm busy for the next hour or so. Look at all these shapes that you can make. Oh my god, I love that. How did I do that? Ah! Amazing! Okay guys, time to work. And this can keep me busy for hours, things like that. I got scared for a second. So it has the 3 rings, and these are weird rings. It has the wrist pin inside and the 2 circlips. Okay, good, but it's nice of them that they install them on the pistons, but we're gonna have to take them out to check them in the cylinders. Okay, so first of all, our connecting rods are marked. So you see here, this one says 1, and we checked that when we took it out. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the connecting rods are in the right order, and we're not gonna mix them up anymore. The pistons, we're gonna dedicate a new piston to each one, and the pistons have direction. So this is the direction. This needs to point forward. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to take out at least not the oil ring, but the first and the second rings. I'm gonna make sure that I don't mix them up. I have a dot and some writing which I can't really read, unfortunately. And let me see what it looks like. The top one has a totally square profile, doesn't have any chamfers or stuff like that. So the letters here, the wording, is our top of first ring. So it's gonna go there. Let's see number 2 if it is different. Yes, number 2, The second one has a groove here on the side, so we're not gonna mix it with the first one. And the same thing, it has wording here, and it doesn't have it on the bottom, I guess, but we're gonna double check. I don't know if you see here, but it has a little channel on the side, and it has the wording, so we're not gonna mix them. The one on top is without the channel, or step. Somebody told me I should go with step, so this is with the step, the other one is without. So this is number one, and of course we're gonna test it in cylinder number one. We're gonna put it in the right orientation, and we're gonna push it with the piston. Now we have the oil here, the oil ring here, so that's gonna serve us as a guide. And now we have to see what this gap says there. It should be somewhere around 12, 14, I believe. So let's see with 12. No, not with 12 and 13 at the same time. Okay. 12 is loose, 13 is tight, so it is 13. That's good. I'm pretty sure that's within the tolerances. And then the second ring, okay, that's too tight, so that's 12. 13 goes there, but it's too tight. Yeah, that's good. Let me go and check. Okay, so I checked the manual and it says 12, between 12 and 17 thou for the gap. So we are 12 and 13. That's perfect. I'm gonna go through all of them to make sure that everything is still okay. So that's cylinder number 2. Okay. This one is 12.2. If they're too small, if the gap is too small, we're gonna have to make it bigger because it is dangerous, because things expand when they're hot, and if this gap closes and it wants to expand more, there's nothing else to happen other than snapping the ring. So we can't be smaller than 12, but they are all 12, 13 thou, which is good. Another little thing I noticed is that this connecting rod, maybe that's me, or I don't know, maybe that's how it came out, but it is, the cap is put in the wrong way. So the cap and the rod have different shapes for both sides. So this is more squarish, this is more like tapered. So that's how it needs to be. So I'm not sure if that was me putting it back together after I took it out, or that's how it was in the engine, but we have to make sure that the caps go the right way when we're done. So since I have this in my hands, let me start with this one. I'm gonna assemble it. So we still have the old bearings here. They're 20/2 because we didn't touch the crankshaft. It was done at some point of the life of this engine. So I'm not gonna lubricate anything yet because I don't want to attract dust. We're gonna lubricate them just before we put them in the engine. Okay, so this way. The caps are also marked. So this one says 6 here, and the connecting rod is marked here. So everything is marked. I always, when I take apart an engine, I always make sure that everything is marked, and if it is not, I have to mark it myself, even though so far I've never found an engine that wasn't marked. So now we can take out the circlip from here. So we're gonna take a socket and we're gonna ask it kindly to move out. Okay, sir, thank you for your service, but you need to retire now. Well, I lied. Here I need assembly lube, but just a little. And here. Okay. Just make sure there's absolutely no play here. Good. And now this is the part where we have to be careful about the orientation. So this is our front, and the piston, on the piston this is our front, right? So that's how we're gonna assemble it. And there you go. Now the new circlips. These pliers are pretty good. Can we get the other one? You know what? I don't like these circlips. No, I'm not gonna use the new circlips. They won't fit. Okay, just making sure that it is in the groove, and that's it. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with the old ones. Imagine if we didn't need to change the pistons, we weren't gonna change the circlips as well. So now we can put our rings and we're ready here. So first we're gonna have to put the second one. Second one is the one with the groove here, and the groove goes on the bottom. We have the words here, and even on this side it says stop. So number 2 and number 1 the same, and this one doesn't say top, but we have the numbers here that I can't see, but anyways, and it doesn't have a groove, so that's the top. That's how it goes. There you go. We're gonna stagger them and lubricate them before we install them in the engine. So this one is ready, 5 more to go. Okay, they're all assembled. I double checked and I triple checked the numbers of the connecting rods with the number of the cap, the orientation of the cap, even though the cap is going to come out again, the direction of the piston, they all point up, which is our front, and everything is as it should be. So now we can start dropping them in the cylinders. For this we have our ring compressor, we have assembly lube, we also have oil, because somebody told me, and it makes sense, I don't know, maybe it's correct, that the assembly lube on the rings is not recommended, because when the engine is started for the first time, the assembly lube burns into something that is not oil, I guess. So we're going to be putting assembly lube on the bearings, but on the rings and in the cylinders we're going to be putting regular engine oil, 5W30, whatever, some engine oil to lubricate it. And what else? And we have a long screwdriver and a hammer, like a soft hammer, and we're ready to start. Well, that's ridiculous. If you've been following my channel, you know that I just finished rebuilding another engine, a TR6 engine again, in my workplace. And when I was filming that and I was installing pistons, the same thing happened. I installed piston number 1, but I forgot to record it. So I started recording from piston number 2. Here what happened It's the same thing. I forgot to record piston number 1 because I just simply forgot to press the button. But the funny part is that I started recording again from cylinder number 2 and I explained everything, and then it turned out that the battery died at some point. I don't know at which point of the second piston installation the battery died. So now we're gonna start with cylinder number 3. What I just did was I put the crank in bottom dead center for cylinder number 3 because I just want it out of the way, and let's do number 3 piston. Actually no, first we're gonna lubricate the cylinder. Yes, I know I have small hands. Well, they're not small. They're just narrow but long. I can make them into a small fist. But musician's hand. I used to play the guitar and the piano. A little bit, not a lot. Anyways. Okay, the cylinder is lubricated. Lubricate everything. Now we're gonna stagger the rings. So that's front, this is front. We're gonna leave the ring number 3, I'm gonna leave at what for me is like 12 o'clock. Number 2 I'm gonna put at 4 o'clock, and number 1 I'm gonna put at 8 o'clock or something like that. Then gently we're gonna drop it into the cylinder. I'm gonna put a screwdriver here to hold it a little bit higher. Then carefully, without turning the rings, we're gonna put the ring compressor, we're gonna tighten it all the way. Okay, now we can take the screwdriver out. We're gonna tap gently the ring compressor, gently, so it straightens and it becomes absolutely parallel to the cylinder. And now gently again with the back of the hammer, lightly but firmly, we push the piston down. And we're gonna leave it here where it is right now, close to top dead center. And we're gonna turn the engine upside down. Now at this point we can put assembly lube on the crank pin. Lots of assembly lube everywhere. Now we're gonna push the connecting rod on this side of the engine towards me, and I'm gonna reach underneath and I'm gonna push the piston up. Now we can turn the crank a little bit to match the connecting rod. Like this. Then we can put our cap, again assembly lube. And we have to be careful again for the direction. The tapered part is towards me and the square part is down there. It needs to match the connecting rod. And then we put the bolts. And we're gonna tighten them. And we're gonna come back later and we're gonna torque them. Still turns, that's a good sign. And now we're gonna leave number 4 at bottom dead center, and we're gonna continue with the same procedure 3 more times. I hope I filmed it this time, because if I didn't, I'm gonna run out of cylinders. So So all connecting rods are installed. Now we just have to torque them. The torque spec says 46 foot-pounds, so I had to switch to my smaller torque wrench because the bigger one doesn't go below 50. Okay. Okay, we're gonna do number 6 as well because it's up right now. Then we're gonna do 2 and 5. Then we're gonna do 3 and 4. Done. And it still turns, surprisingly. Isn't that satisfying? I just love it. Okay, let's see what's next. Okay, after a short meeting with myself, I decided that I want to install the ceiling block in the front and rear seal housing, this one, so I can finish the bottom end. Of course, we have to install the oil pump too, and then we can install the sump. But that's gonna happen in the next episode because we already are after the 30 minutes mark and I don't think I want to take more of your time. So stay tuned for the next episode in which we're gonna continue assembling and hopefully soon we're gonna be able to start this engine. So thanks for watching, guys. Bye.